Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast, your cozy little place to practice real English through real conversations. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jake, and today's topic pairs really nicely with our morning habits episode. But this time, we're talking about the other end of the day. We're talking about building a night routine for a better tomorrow.
Yes, and I think this is honestly such an underrated topic. So many people focus all their energy on mornings, but how you wind down at night genuinely shapes how you sleep and how you feel the next day, too.
Exactly. And there's such a nice phrase for this, setting tomorrow up for success. And honestly, that setup often starts the night before, not the moment you wake up.
Today, we're going to cover why a night routine matters, simple habits for winding down, preparing for tomorrow, and gentle sleep habits, along with tons of natural English vocabulary and role-play conversations.
And, of course, real conversations, so you can practice your English while building something genuinely useful for daily life.
Stick around until the end for our full practice conversation, where we bring everything together naturally. Let's get into it. So, Jake, let's start with the big question. Why do you think a night routine genuinely matters as much as a morning routine? Maybe even more in some ways.
Honestly, I think it's because sleep quality really shapes everything that follows. Your mood, your energy, your focus, and a good night routine genuinely sets the stage for that rest.
Right, and there's a nice phrase for this, winding down, gradually slowing your mind and body before sleep, rather than going from full speed straight into bed. I've been trying to wind down more intentionally in the evenings.
Great phrase. Let's talk about another useful idea, closing the day, genuinely acknowledging that the day is finished rather than letting work or stress bleed endlessly into the night. I try to have a clear moment where I close the day, even mentally.
Let's practice using this idea. Jake, tell me about how you personally try to close your day.
Sure. Honestly, I try to write down anything still on my mind before I stop working. That small habit really helps me mentally close the day rather than carrying it into the evening.
That's such a genuine, practical example. Let's talk about one more important idea here, setting tomorrow up for success. Small preparations tonight that make tomorrow morning feel calmer and easier. A good night routine really is about setting tomorrow up for success.
Beautiful phrase, and honestly such a nice way to think about the evening, not as the end of productivity, but as quiet preparation for what's ahead. Let's get into the specific categories now, starting with winding down.
Let's talk about winding down first, since so many people say their evenings feel just as rushed and stressful as their mornings, which honestly defeats the whole purpose of rest.
Right. Let's start with one of the most popular habits, a digital sunset, choosing a specific time to put screens away in the evening. There's a nice phrase for this, unplugging, stepping away from phones, laptops, and other devices intentionally.
Let's practice talking about this. Jake, tell me about your own approach to unplugging in the evening.
Sure. Honestly, I try to put my phone away by 9 most nights. It's become such a small but meaningful part of how I wind down before bed.
That's such a lovely, simple habit. Let's talk about another popular one, dimming the lights in your home in the evening, which genuinely signals to your body that it's time to slow down. I try to switch to softer lighting once the sun goes down.
Right, and this connects to a related phrase, creating a calm environment, intentionally shaping your surroundings to support relaxation rather than leaving bright lights and clutter everywhere.
Let's practice this. Jake, tell me about creating a calm environment in your own evenings.
Sure, I'll take this one. I try to tidy up my living room a little before bed. Even just putting a few things away, it really does help me feel calmer walking into a peaceful space the next morning, too.
Beautiful example. Let's talk about one more popular winding down habit, a warm drink or a simple calming ritual, like herbal tea or a few minutes of stretching. I like to have a cup of herbal tea most evenings. It's become such a comforting little signal that the day is winding down.
Right, and there's a nice phrase for this, too, a calming ritual, a small repeated action that genuinely signals rest to your mind and body.
Let's do a quick role play exploring winding down habits together. Imagine two friends comparing their evening routines.
So, what does your evening actually look like these days?
Honestly, pretty simple. I put my phone away by 9, dim the lights, and usually have a cup of tea while I read for a bit.
That sounds really peaceful, honestly. I've been trying to do something similar, though I definitely still scroll on my phone way too late most nights.
It's definitely a work in progress for most of us. Even small steps in that direction really do make a difference over time.
See, listeners, notice how naturally these small evening habits came up in a real casual conversation between friends. Genuine, relatable, not a rigid, perfect routine.
Now let's move to habits specifically for mental reflection, since so much of a genuinely restful night actually starts with a calmer mind, not just a calmer environment.
Great idea. Let's start with journaling, which we touched on in a couple of previous episodes too, but it's honestly worth revisiting specifically for evenings. Even just a few honest sentences before bed can genuinely help process the day.
Right, and there's a nice phrase for this, emptying your mind, writing down lingering thoughts so they don't keep circling while you're trying to fall asleep. Whenever my mind feels really full at night, journaling helps me empty it out a little.
Let's practice this. Anna, tell me about how journaling or a similar reflective habit helps you personally at night.
Sure, I'll take this one. Honestly, even just 5 minutes of journaling before bed really helps me empty my mind, so I'm not lying there turning the same thoughts over and over.
That's such a genuine, relatable example. Let's talk about another simple habit for the mind, a brief gratitude reflection specifically before bed, which we discussed in our positivity episode too, but it's such a lovely, gentle way to close the day. I try to think of one good moment from the day before I fall asleep.
Right, and let's talk about one more, a brief mental review of the day, not to judge yourself harshly, but simply to acknowledge what happened. I like to take just a minute to think through my day, what went well, what I'd do differently.
Sure, I just take a minute to think back through my day. Nothing too deep, just acknowledging a few moments, good or hard, before I let it go and settle into sleep.
That's such a lovely, simple practice. Let's talk about one more mental habit, avoiding stressful or stimulating content right before bed, like intense news or heated messages, which we touched on in our positivity episode too, but it really deserves mention here as well.
Great point. Protecting your mental space in the evening really is one of the most underrated habits out there, and it costs absolutely nothing to practice.
Now let's talk about a genuinely practical category, preparing for tomorrow the night before, since this often makes the biggest difference in how calm or chaotic the next morning actually feels.
Great idea. Let's start with a really simple one, laying out your clothes for the next day. I try to pick out what I'm wearing the night before. It saves so much time and decision-making in the morning.
Right, and this connects to a phrase we've used before too, removing decision fatigue, reducing the number of small choices you need to make in the morning when your energy and focus are often more limited.
Let's practice this. Anna, tell me about a small habit you use to prepare for tomorrow tonight.
Sure, I'll take this one. Honestly, I always pack my bag the night before, so I'm never scrambling around looking for things right before I leave the house. That's such a practical, useful example. Let's talk about another useful habit, writing a short to-do list for the next day, which we actually touched on in our discipline episode too. I write down my top 3 priorities for tomorrow before I go to bed.
Right, and there's a nice phrase for this too, clearing your mental to-do list, writing things down so you're not trying to hold everything in your head while you're falling asleep.
Let's practice this. Jake, tell me about how planning ahead the night before helps you personally.
Sure, I'll take this one. When I plan my day the night before, I don't waste time in the morning wondering what to focus on first. I already know exactly where to start.
Perfect. Such a practical example. Let's talk about one more preparation habit, setting up your morning environment, like prepping coffee or placing your workout clothes somewhere visible. I set up the coffee maker the night before, so all I have to do is press one button in the morning.
Great tool, and honestly, such a small detail that genuinely makes mornings feel so much smoother and calmer.
Now let's talk about habits specifically connected to sleep itself, since this really is the heart of why a night routine matters so much in the first place.
Great point. Let's start with consistency, going to bed around the same time each night, which we touched on in our Habits episode 2. I try to keep a fairly consistent bedtime, even on weekends.
Right, and there's a nice phrase for this too, protecting your sleep, treating rest as genuinely important, not something to sacrifice constantly. Let's practice this. Anna, tell me about how you try to protect your sleep. Sure, I'll take this one. Honestly, I try to stop working at least an hour before bed, even if that means leaving something unfinished. Protecting my sleep has genuinely made such a difference in how I feel the next day. That's such an important, honest example. Let's talk about another simple sleep habit, keeping your room cool and dark, which many people say genuinely improves sleep quality. I try to keep my room really dark and a little cool. It really does help me fall asleep faster.
Right, and let's talk about one more useful habit, avoiding caffeine later in the day, since it can genuinely linger in your system longer than people expect. I try not to have coffee after early afternoon. It really does affect how well I sleep otherwise.
Let's do a role play bringing together a few of these sleep habits. Imagine two coworkers discussing how they've been sleeping lately.
Honestly, I've been struggling to fall asleep easily lately.
Have you tried keeping your room a little cooler and darker? That really helped me when I started struggling too.
I haven't tried that specifically. I usually just lie there scrolling on my phone until I get tired.
Maybe try putting the phone away earlier too and see if that combination helps, even just for a few nights.
That's a good idea. I think I'll try both of those this week.
See, listeners, notice how naturally these practical sleep habits came up in a real, casual conversation, genuine, useful advice, not a rigid, perfect routine. Let's take a moment now to talk about how a night routine actually sticks over time, in simple, everyday English, since understanding this can really help make these changes last, just like we discussed in our discipline episode 2.
Great idea. Let's start with starting small, rather than trying to build an elaborate, perfect routine all at once. I started with just one small habit, putting my phone away earlier, before adding anything else.
Right, and let's talk about attaching a new habit to something you already do consistently, which we called habit stacking in a previous episode. I stack my journaling right after I brush my teeth every night.
Let's practice this. Anna, tell me about a trigger you use for one of your own night habits.
Sure, I'll take this one. My trigger for journaling is right after I turn off my bedside lamp. That small cue reminds me every single night without fail. That's such a clear, practical example. Let's talk about one more important idea, being flexible and forgiving with yourself on nights when the routine doesn't happen perfectly, since rigid perfectionism often makes any habit harder to sustain long-term.
Great point. And honestly, a night routine doesn't need to look exactly the same every single night to still genuinely count as a healthy, supportive habit overall.
All right, time for our full practice conversation, bringing together winding down, reflection, preparing for tomorrow, and gentle sleep habits, all in one natural dialogue.
Let's set the scene. Two friends catching up in the evening. One of them has been building a genuinely helpful night routine recently.
Perfect. Here we go.
Hey, how have your evenings been lately? You seem a lot calmer than usual.
Honestly, I've actually been working on a proper night routine for the past month or so, and it's genuinely made a big difference.
Oh, really? Tell me more. My evenings have felt pretty chaotic lately.
Sure, so I've started putting my phone away by 9 and dimming the lights around the same time. It really helps me start winding down properly.
That sounds so peaceful. Has that actually helped with your sleep, too?
It really has. I've also started journaling for just 5 minutes before bed. It helps me empty my mind instead of lying there thinking about everything.
That's lovely. What about preparing for the next day? Do you do anything for that too?
Yeah, actually, I write down my top priorities for tomorrow and I lay out my clothes too. It makes my mornings feel so much calmer.
That's so inspiring, honestly. And what about actual sleep? Have you changed anything there specifically?
Actually, yes. I've been keeping my room cooler and darker, and I stopped drinking coffee after lunch. Both genuinely seem to have helped.
That's such a complete, thoughtful routine. Honestly, hearing all of this makes me want to start something small myself.
Honestly, I'd say just pick one small thing. Don't try to change everything all at once. That's what really made it stick for me this time.
That's such good advice. I think I'll start with something really simple, maybe just the phone away habit.
That's a great place to start, honestly. Once you build a little momentum, other changes tend to follow much more naturally.
Okay, listeners, did you catch everything in that conversation? Winding down habits like putting the phone away and dimming the lights, mental habits like journaling, preparation habits like planning tomorrow, and sleep habits like a cooler room and less caffeine, all woven together naturally along with genuine encouragement to start small.
Let's break down a few key lines. I've actually been working on a proper night routine, the core theme of today's whole episode.
It helps me empty my mind instead of lying there thinking about everything.
A mental habit supporting better sleep.
I write down my top 3 priorities for tomorrow, a small, meaningful preparation habit.
I've been keeping my room cooler and darker, a simple physical sleep habit.
Just pick one small thing. Don't try to change everything all at once. That's such important, practical advice for lasting change.
See how naturally all these tools weave together in one real, everyday conversation? That's exactly the goal today. Let's talk about mistakes now, common patterns that often prevent a night routine from actually feeling sustainable or genuinely restful.
Great point. Mistake number 1, trying to build an overly elaborate routine all at once with 10 different steps, which often feels overwhelming and quickly gets abandoned within just a week or two.
Right. A much more sustainable approach is usually starting with just 1 or 2 small habits and gradually building from there rather than overhauling your entire evening overnight.
Good point. Mistake number 2, treating the night routine as another rigid task to complete perfectly, rather than as a genuinely restful, flexible practice, which can accidentally add stress rather than reduce it.
Right, and this connects back to our discipline episode too. Progress over perfection really does apply here as well. Now let's talk about mistake number 3, using screens right up until the moment you try to fall asleep, then wondering why your mind won't settle down quickly.
Such an important common pattern, and honestly, even a small buffer of screen-free time before bed tends to make a noticeable difference for most people.
Mistake number 4, letting your night routines start way too late, rushing through everything quickly, rather than allowing genuine time to actually wind down properly.
Let's go through a quick reference list of useful phrases organized by situation, since this can be really handy for listeners to remember.
Great idea. For winding down, unplugging, creating a calm environment, a calming ritual.
For reflection, emptying your mind, closing the day, a gentle mental review.
For preparing for tomorrow, removing decision fatigue, clearing your mental to-do list, setting tomorrow up for success.
For sleep habits, protecting your sleep, a consistent bedtime.
And for making it stick, starting small, habit stacking, progress, not perfection.
That's such a useful toolkit. Listeners, save this list or come back and re-listen to this section a few times until these phrases start feeling automatic.
Let's do a fun role-play marathon, 5 quick scenarios so you can hear these tools used again and again in different contexts.
I love this idea. Let's go fast. Scene 1, building a screen-free habit before bed.
I keep scrolling on my phone way too late every night.
Have you tried charging it in another room? Removing that temptation completely often works better than willpower alone.
That's a good idea. I'll try that tonight.
Scene 2. Building a journaling habit.
I always mean to journal before bed, but I forget most nights.
Maybe try stacking it right after you brush your teeth. That small trigger really does help it stick.
That makes sense. I'll attach it to that routine starting tonight.
Scene 3. Preparing clothes the night before.
My mornings always feel so rushed trying to figure out what to wear.
Try laying out your outfit the night before. It really does remove that decision from your busy morning.
I love that idea. I'll try that starting tonight.
Scene 4. Improving the sleep environment.
I've been struggling to fall asleep easily lately.
Have you tried keeping your room a little cooler and darker? That combination really does help a lot of people.
I haven't tried that specifically. I'll give it a shot tonight.
Scene 5. Closing the mental workday.
I keep thinking about work even after I've stopped for the day.
Try writing down anything still on your mind before you close your laptop. It really does help create a clearer mental boundary.
Perfect marathon. 5 completely different everyday habits, and every single tool we've discussed today showed up naturally across them all.
Let's do a quick correction round, both grammar and tone this time. I'll read a sentence with a mistake, and Anna, you fix it.
Let's go.
Sentence 1. I'm trying to building a better night routine.
After trying to, we need the base verb, not ing. It should be, I'm trying to build a better night routine.
Correct. Sentence 2. If I miss one night, my whole routine is ruined.
This reflects all or nothing thinking. A healthier version would be, if I miss one night, I'll simply continue again tomorrow.
Perfect fix. Sentence 3. I don't have no time for a night routine.
This has a double negative issue. It should be, I don't have time for a night routine. Or, more gently, I'm working on finding a little time for a night routine.
Great catch. Sentence 4. I need to do everything perfect every single night.
Perfect is an adjective, but here we need an adverb. It should be, I need to do everything perfectly every single night. Though, honestly, a healthier version might be, my routine doesn't need to be perfect every single night.
Excellent fix. Sentence 5. Sleep are really important for tomorrow.
Sleep here is uncountable and singular. It should be, sleep is really important for tomorrow.
Great job catching all of these, Anna, and great job to listeners who caught them too.
Let's answer a couple of common questions before we wrap up. Jake, what's something learners often ask about night routines?
A big one is, how long should a night routine actually take? I don't have hours to spend winding down.
Great question, and honestly, a night routine doesn't need to be long at all. Even just 15 or 20 minutes of intentional winding down can genuinely make a real difference. It's much more about consistency than length.
That's such a reassuring, practical answer. Another common question, is it bad to skip my night routine occasionally, like when I'm traveling or really busy?
Not at all. Honestly, that connects back to something we discussed earlier, too. Real, sustainable habits actually include flexibility, rather than rigid, unforgiving consistency no matter what.
Great, compassionate answer. One more question. Is there a difference between a night routine and sleep hygiene in English?
Good question. They're closely related, but sleep hygiene usually refers more specifically to habits directly connected to sleep quality, like room temperature or caffeine timing, while night routine is a broader term covering your whole evening, including winding down, reflection, and preparation, too.
Great distinctions. I think that covers a lot of really useful ground today.
Before we recap, let's do one final story weaving together everything we've discussed today.
I'm ready. Go for it.
Okay, a couple of years ago, my evenings honestly felt like a chaotic blur. I'd work late, scroll on my phone until I was exhausted, and fall asleep without ever really winding down at all. My mornings were consistently rushed and stressful as a result.
That sounds like such an exhausting cycle.
It really was. But eventually, I decided to start with just one tiny change, putting my phone away 30 minutes before bed. Nothing else at first. And honestly, within just a couple of weeks, that one small habit started having a real ripple effect.
That's such a small, manageable starting point.
Exactly. And slowly, I started sleeping better, which improved my mood, and I naturally started adding other small habits too. Journaling, laying out clothes, a cup of tea in the evening.
That's such a beautiful example of small habits compounding over time.
It really was. And looking back now, my evenings feel completely different. Calmer, more intentional, and honestly, my mornings feel so much easier too, because so much of that ease genuinely starts the night before.
That's such a beautiful, honest example, listeners, and it really shows exactly what we've talked about today. A better tomorrow really can start tonight with just one small, simple habit at a time.
Let's do a few more full-length scenes, this time a little longer so we can really hear the whole night routine process play out naturally.
Great idea. Let's start with a scene about a parent building a calmer evening routine with young kids.
Okay, our evenings have felt so chaotic lately. Bedtime always turns into this huge struggle.
That's such a common challenge, honestly. What does your current evening actually look like?
Pretty unpredictable, honestly. Screens are on until the very last minute, and then everyone's overstimulated right before bed.
What if you tried a consistent screen-free window before bed, even just 30 minutes, with something calmer instead, like reading together?
That's actually a really good idea. I think we've just been letting the evening happen without much structure at all.
Building even a simple, predictable rhythm often helps so much, both for kids and honestly for parents too.
I'm definitely going to try that starting tonight. Thank you.
Beautiful example, listeners, showing how these same principles apply just as much to family routines as they do to individual ones.
Let's do a second, longer scene, this time about someone struggling with an irregular work schedule affecting their night routine.
My schedule changes so much week to week, it feels impossible to keep any kind of consistent night routine.
That's such a real challenge, honestly. Is there anything simple that could stay consistent even if the timing shifts around your schedule?
I hadn't really thought about it that way. Maybe the actual habits could stay the same even if the exact time changes.
Exactly, like always dimming the lights an hour before you plan to sleep, whatever time that ends up being, rather than tying it to one fixed clock time.
That's actually really helpful. I think I've been assuming a routine needed a fixed schedule to count as real.
Not at all. Consistency in the habits themselves matters just as much as consistency in timing.
Great example, listeners, showing how night routines can genuinely adapt to real, irregular life circumstances, rather than requiring one rigid, perfect schedule.
Let's do one final longer scene about someone rebuilding their night routine after a really difficult, stressful period in life. That's completely understandable. Routines often fall away during genuinely difficult times, and that's okay. What's one small thing that used to feel good in the evenings before things got hard?
Honestly, I used to really enjoy reading before bed. That always felt so calming.
That sounds like such a lovely place to start again, even just 10 minutes. Nothing more ambitious than that for now.
That actually feels really manageable. I think I've been putting pressure on myself to rebuild everything all at once.
There's no rush at all. One small, comforting habit is a genuinely meaningful place to begin again.
Thank you. I think I'll pick up my book again tonight.
Beautiful closing example, listeners, showing such gentle compassion for rebuilding a routine slowly after a genuinely difficult period, one small step at a time.
Before we recap, let's give listeners a few questions to practice on their own, out loud, right now, if you'd like to pause the episode.
Question 1. Think of one small winding down habit you'd like to try tonight. Describe it using today's vocabulary, like unplugging or creating a calm environment.
Question 2. Try describing one way you could prepare for tomorrow tonight, using a phrase like removing decision fatigue or clearing your mental to-do list.
Question 3. Think of one small sleep habit you could try this week, using the phrase, protecting my sleep.
Great questions. Let me answer the third one to give an example. I want to start protecting my sleep by keeping my room a little cooler at night, so I've decided to adjust the thermostat about an hour before bed as a small, consistent habit.
That's such a simple, practical example, and notice how naturally that small environmental change could make such a difference over time.
That's really the final goal here, listeners. Not a complicated, overwhelming routine, but small, thoughtful habits that genuinely help you rest well and set tomorrow up for success.
Let's cover a few more natural idioms before we recap, because these show up constantly in everyday English when people talk about evenings and rest.
Great idea. First one, call it a day, meaning to stop working or being active for the day and rest. I think I'm going to call it a day. I'm pretty exhausted.
Lovely phrase, and closely related, hit the hay, a casual, friendly way of saying you're going to bed. I'm going to hit the hay early tonight. I'm really tired.
Let's practice a couple of these together. Anna, use call it a day in a sentence.
Sure, I'll take this one. Honestly, after such a long, busy week, I decided to call it a little earlier than usual tonight.
That's such a genuine, natural example. Let's cover one more phrase. Recharge your batteries, describing rest that genuinely restores your energy, much like charging a device. A good night's sleep really helps me recharge my batteries.
Great phrase, and such a common, relatable way to describe genuine rest. Let's do a final quick role play using a few of these naturally. Honestly, I think I'm going to call it a day. I'm completely worn out.
Same here. I'm gonna hit the hay early tonight, too.
Good idea. We both really need to recharge our batteries after this week.
Perfect natural use of several phrases together, listeners. Exactly the kind of warm, relaxed vocabulary that makes conversations about evenings and rest feel genuinely natural. Before our final recap, let's talk about something practical, how night routines can genuinely look a little different on weekends compared to weekdays, since rigid sameness isn't always realistic or even necessary.
Great point. On weekdays, a night routine often needs to fit around an earlier alarm the next morning, so consistency and timing tends to matter a bit more. On weeknights, I try to stick pretty closely to the same bedtime.
Right, and on weekends, there's often a little more flexibility, though many people find that keeping at least some of the habits, even with a later timing, still genuinely helps. On weekends, my bedtime shifts later, but I still try to keep the winding down habits themselves.
Let's practice this. Jake, tell me how your own night routine shifts between weekdays and weekends.
Sure. Honestly, on weekdays, I'm pretty strict about unplugging by 9, but on weekends, I let that shift a bit later, though I still make sure to dim the lights and journal before bed, even if the timing moves around.
That's such a genuine, balanced example. Let's talk about one more useful idea here. Protecting the core habits, keeping the most meaningful parts of your routine consistent, even while allowing flexibility around exact timing. I try to protect the core habits, even when the schedule itself shifts around.
Beautiful phrase, and such a realistic, sustainable way to think about weekends specifically, rather than either abandoning the routine completely or forcing an identical, rigid schedule every single night regardless of circumstances.
Let's take one more quiet moment before our recap and talk honestly about nights when the routine simply doesn't happen, since this is such a normal, common part of real life.
Great point. And honestly, this connects back to something we've discussed throughout the whole episode, too. Flexibility and self-compassion really do matter more than rigid perfection. There's a nice phrase for this. An imperfect night is still okay. Tonight didn't go as planned, but that's okay. Tomorrow is a fresh start.
Let's practice this. Jake, describe a night that didn't go as planned and how you responded to it with self-compassion.
Sure. Honestly, last week I completely fell asleep on the couch with my phone still in my hand, and instead of feeling frustrated about it the next day, I just reminded myself one off night doesn't erase the whole routine, and I simply picked it back up again that evening.
That's such a healthy, genuine example, and such an important note to end this section on, listeners. A night routine really isn't about perfect, unbroken consistency. It's about a gentle, ongoing practice that you can always simply return to, one evening at a time. All right, let's recap everything from today's episode.
We started with the core mindset. A better tomorrow really can start tonight, and winding down properly really does shape how well you sleep and how you feel the next day.
We covered simple winding down habits, unplugging from screens, creating a calm environment, and small comforting rituals like tea or gentle stretching.
We talked about reflection and journaling before bed, emptying your mind, gentle gratitude, and a brief, non-judgmental review of the day.
We explored preparing for tomorrow tonight, laying out clothes, writing a simple to-do list, and setting up your morning environment in advance.
We covered gentle sleep habits, a consistent bedtime, a cooler and darker room, and being mindful of caffeine later in the day.
And we talked about how a night routine actually sticks, starting small, habit stacking, and staying flexible and forgiving with yourself rather than expecting perfection.
If you remember nothing else from today, remember this. A better tomorrow really can start tonight, and it doesn't need to be complicated. Just one small, gentle habit at a time.
Such an important, encouraging reminder. And listeners, just like always, practice really is the key here. Try picking just one small night habit this week, and use today's phrases to talk yourself through building it honestly.
Beautifully said. All right, everyone, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for spending this time with us practicing your English.
We'll see you next time, right here for more easy English conversation practice.
Take care and keep speaking.
Bye, everyone.